Welcome to the session about thread states. So in here we'll discuss about the thread states, and we have new, runnable, blocked, waiting, timed waiting, and terminated. So these are the thread states: new, runnable, blocked, waiting, timed waiting, and terminated. So in this diagram you can see we have the new state, which is in light blue, and we have the runnable state in the middle, it's depicted here, and the terminated state, which is in red. And the bottom we have blocked, waiting, and timed waiting. And let's see how we can elaborate this, explain this. So we have new state. Once the thread is created, it's in the new state. Once the start method is invoked, so we covered these theory things in previous sessions. So if you need to brush up those areas, you can watch those videos. So once we created new threads and we invoke the start method, so once the start method is invoked, the thread goes to the runnable state. Once the thread is created, it is in the new state, and once the start method is invoked, it goes to the runnable state. And once the runnable method is executed, once it's done, it goes to the terminated state. So it goes to the terminated state. And while in the runnable state, few things can happen. So as a result, it goes to the blocked, waiting, and timed waiting for those three states. So let's see how it can go to the blocked state. So if the thread is in the runnable state and it fails to acquire the lock, it goes to the blocked state. Once the lock is released, it again comes to the runnable state. So it's decided by the thread schedule. So that is about the blocked state. So blocked state is also known as a non-runnable state. So from the runnable state, let's see how it can go to the waiting state. Once the wait method or the join method is invoked, it goes to the waiting state. So from the runnable state, wait or join method is invoked, it goes to the waiting state. So in order to come back from the waiting state to the runnable, notify or notify all should be invoked. It is the waiting state is also known as a non-runnable state. It is a non-runnable state. So let's see the time waiting state. So from the runnable state, it can go to the time waiting state. So when the sleep method or the join or wait is invoked with a time, specific time as a parameter, it goes to the timed waiting state. Once the time is up, it again comes back to the runnable state. So these are the thread states: new, runnable, blocked, waiting, timed waiting, and terminated. So once the thread is created, it is in the new state, and once the run method is executed, once the thread is started, once the start method is called, so it goes to the runnable state. Once the start method is called, so start method is called, it goes to the runnable state. So there are not runnable states, those are waiting, timed waiting, and blocked. So in the diagram you saw that not runnable states. So let's see the relationship between runnable and not runnable states. So if the thread is in the runnable state, it fails to acquire the lock, it goes to the blocked state, which is a not runnable state. And once the lock is released, it comes back to the runnable state. So that is point number 1. Point number 2, if the thread is in the runnable state, if the wait method or the join method is executed, it goes to the waiting state, and once the notify or notify all is invoked, it comes back to the runnable state. So that is option 2. So let's see the option 3, point 3. If the sleep method or the wait method is invoked with a specific time duration as the parameter, it goes to the time waiting state, and once the time is up, it comes back to the runnable state. So the not runnable states are blocked, waiting and time waiting. So we saw how it can happen from the runnable state to the blocked state and again back to the runnable state, and from runnable state again to the waiting state and again back to the runnable state, runnable state from the time waiting and again back to the runnable state. So option 1, when failing to acquire the lock, it goes to the block state, and once the lock is released, it comes to the runnable state. And based on the wait or join, it goes to the waiting method, and once the notify is invoked or the notify all is invoked, it comes back to the runnable state. Once the sleep method is invoked with a specific number of time, it goes to the time waiting state, and once it's done, it's come back to the runnable state. So let's see the terminated state. When the thread has executed the run method normally successfully, it goes to the terminated state. So we have terminated state here. So thread exceptions. This is generated when a method is called on a thread whose state does not allow for that method call. So it put illegal thread states exception. State check methods. So there are few methods to check the state. So one is alive. Is alive method returns true if the thread has been started but not terminated. So it is either in the runnable or one of the not runnable states. So is alive returns true if the thread has been started but not terminated. So it's either in runnable or not runnable states. Is alive method returns false if it is either in the new or terminated states. So we can use the get state method to get the current state of a thread. So if you go to the demonstration, thread states, so we have class called myThread which implements runnable. So in a detailed session we explained about a demonstration about thread states. Here we just recall about thread states. So once the thread is started, state of the thread after starting it, And once the start method is invoked, we again get the state. So let's execute this and see. State of the thread 1, after creating it, it is in the before the start method is invoked, it is in the new state, and once calling the start method, it is in the runnable state. So it's same as here. Once the sleep is called, it is in the time waiting state. Once the join is called, it is in the waiting state, and when it has finished the execution, it's in the terminated state. So this is just having a look at the demonstration which we comprehensively analyzed in a previous session. So this, along with this theory session, there will be another video which comprehensively analyzes the thread states, which explains this code in a separate video, so please watch that as well. So again, coming back to the presentation, thread states. So these are the possible thread states: new, runnable, blocked, waiting, time waiting, and terminated. So this diagram is very important. So it has the new state, runnable in the middle, terminated here, and it has three non-runnable states: blocked, waiting, and timed waiting. So once it is in the runnable states, the thread schedule will decide which one should go to the running state. So it goes ready from running. That's the end of the session.